Welcome to episode 30 of Project 250, a weekly chronicle of the people, places, and events of the American Revolution in the order they occurred. So, without further ado, here's what was happening 250 years ago this week, July 27th to August 2nd, 1775. Last week, the British government banned American colonists from fishing in the North Atlantic. In New York City, local Sons of Liberty, led by Marinus Willett and 3 others, raided a British military magazine and storehouse located on the east side of Manhattan Island, known as the Turtle Bay Depot. The captured supplies were sent to Patriot forces at Boston, Lake Champlain, and Fort Ticonderoga. Also on July 20th, General Gage's official account of the Battle of Bunker Hill arrived in London, where it sparked fierce debate and led many military officials to reassess American military capabilities, with some suggesting that news of the battle may have influenced the King's decision to reject the Olive Branch petition. On July 21st, Benjamin Franklin submitted his Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union to Congress. However, Franklin's proposal for a united colonial confederation was not acted upon at the time. On that same day, in Massachusetts, a band of militia led by Major Joseph Vose destroyed the lighthouse on Great Brewster Island. On July 22nd, the Continental Congress appointed a committee to review and report on the conciliatory resolution of February 20th. On July 23rd, General Thomas Gage was relieved of his duties as commander of British forces in Boston. In his General Orders of July 23rd, George Washington provided further guidelines to distinguish between commissioned officers, non-commissioned officers, and private soldiers, with field officers directed to wear red or pink cockades in their hats, captains, yellow or buff cockades, and subalterns green cockades. Sergeants were to wear an epaulet, or red cloth stripe, on their right shoulder, while corporals were to wear green epaulets. Additionally, steps were taken to strengthen the American siege lines at Boston. On July 24th, in a letter to James Warren, John Adams expressed his frustration with Congress's lack of progress on its most basic tasks. Adams expressed similar concerns in a letter to his wife Abigail, written the same day, in which he lamented the difficulty and intricacy of the tasks facing Congress. On July 25th, the Maryland Convention issued a provincial $4 bill, which depicted George III trampling upon the Magna Carta. The convention also established an association of freemen to promote and support the policies of the Continental Association. Finally, Congress unanimously appointed Benjamin Franklin as the first Postmaster General. Meanwhile, in London, during a frenzied cabinet meeting, the British cabinet decided to send 2,000 additional reinforcements to Boston immediately and to have an army of at least 20,000 regulars in America by the following spring. We begin this week in Philadelphia, where the Continental Congress established the Army Hospital, more accurately described as a hospital system. This system would be headed by a Director General and Chief Physician, with Dr. Benjamin Church being unanimously chosen for the position. In addition to the Director General and Chief Physician, Congress also authorized the appointment of 4 surgeons, 1 clerk, an apothecary, 2 storekeepers, and 1 nurse for every 10 sick individuals, all of whom would be appointed by Dr. Church. Additionally, up to 20 surgeons' mates would be appointed by the surgeons themselves. The next day, on July 28th, the Continental Congress adopted an address to the people of Ireland, appealing for support from the Irish people. The address expressed sympathy for their plight, acknowledging that the Irish had often been the targets of government cruelty. Congress appealed to the goodwill and friendly disposition of their fellow subjects beyond the Atlantic, and urged them to realize that they had nothing more to expect from the common enemy than the grim fate of being last devoured. July 29th marked two important administrative developments for the Army, as Congress established the Army Chaplain Corps and General Washington established the Judge Advocate General's Corps. In other news, on July 30th, Captain James Cook successfully completed his second voyage as HMS Resolution anchored off the southern coast of England, Cook having completed the first eastbound circumnavigation of the globe. Closing out the month of July, in Massachusetts, Major Benjamin Tupper once again led a force of 300 men in whaleboats back to Brewster Island. Their mission was to halt the repairs being made to the lighthouse that had been damaged in the raid they conducted back on July 21st. In the course of the attack, Tupper's men killed or captured the entire 32-man British Guard, along with a subaltern and 10 carpenters, while suffering only 2 casualties themselves. Also on July 31st, Congress formally rejected the conciliatory resolution of February 20th, 1775. In their report, the committee members, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Richard Henry Lee, noted that the resolution seemed designed to mislead their fellow subjects across the ocean into a false sense of security. This deception would give military force time to take effect, which Lord North claimed would quickly force the cowardly Americans into complete submission. Moreover, Lord North had explicitly stated he would never negotiate until America was completely subdued. Indeed,
when the world considers the great armaments with which they have invaded us, and the circumstances of cruelty with which they have commenced and prosecuted hostilities, when these things, we say, are laid together and attentively considered, can the world be deceived into an opinion that we are unreasonable, or can it hesitate to believe with us that nothing but our own exertions may defeat the ministerial sentence of death or abject submission?
On August 1st, the Second Continental Congress adjourned, but agreed to reconvene on September 5th. That same day, near Seneca Town, South Carolina, a detachment from the 3rd South Carolina Rangers, while on patrol, made camp for the night but failed to set up any security precautions. That night, the Rangers were surprised by a Cherokee raiding party who soon drove them out of their camp. Finally this week, in Augusta, Georgia, members of the local association committee confronted Thomas Brown at his home on the South Carolina side of the Savannah River, just above Augusta. The committee members, angered by Brown's denouncement of the association and his invitation to loyalists to form a counter-association, brutally tortured Brown and dragged him through the streets of Augusta as a warning to others. On the same day, Lieutenant Samuel Bixby of Connecticut recorded in his diary, "One of General Washington's riflemen was killed by the regulars today and then hung up by the neck." This incident sparked a brief firefight between the rebels and the regulars. And that's the way it was 250 years ago this week. If you enjoyed this video, please tell a friend. And if you like what you see on this channel, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. You can also check us out on Facebook and Twitter, or X, as well as on Substack. Thank you for watching.